What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, or to the channel if it's your first time. My name is Travis, this is TWA Motorsports, and today we're going to be working on the Trans Am. If you guys caught my last video, we did work on the engine, and I know you guys have been looking for that. That was the whole reason for this project, is because I got a new cam and it had an oil leak. So this kind of has snowballed into what you see now. But in those previous videos, we got the K-member in, the tubular K-member from BMR. We got the lower control arms from BMR as well. They're in. We got the engine apart, or parts of the engine apart, and today I've got these set aside because we're going to do a trunnion upgrade. I'm not going to be doing that today. Today I'm going to be taking the oil pan gasket off. These are actually riveted to the pan themselves. So we're going to drill out these rivets. I'm going to take out the oil level sensor, and we're going to take this out to my machine shop because they can put this in a tank and clean this way better than I could ever clean it. You can sit here and clean this a little bit at a time, but it is really time consuming, and I would rather just take it out there. I'm also going to take on the front and rear covers as well. So let's get started by knocking out this pan gasket. Well, I went ahead and took out the oil sending, well, it's the oil sensor that tells you how much oil's in your pan. If it's going low, it'll give you a dash light. But after that, we're going to take off this bracket that holds the transmission cooling lines, and then we're going to take off this center baffle here. And once we get that finished, then we'll drill out these rivets and get this thing out to the machine shop. Well, I got these loaded in the truck, so let's run out to the machine shop, and then when we get back, we will try to possibly, I'm hoping the UPS guy comes, but I got my new steering rack, like I said, so we're going to try to put it in, but I'm waiting for the tie rod ends. Like I said, I'm going to try to measure it off the other one, but let's run out to the machine shop, drop these off. Hopefully when we get back, my tie rod ends will be here. I'll tell you what's crazy, it's 62 degrees. I don't know if you guys can see it on my radio, but I don't know if it's like this where you guys live, but every time it's supposed to rain tomorrow, all these people are washing their cars. It's so dumb. I like to keep my car clean too, but when it's gonna rain the next day, it's not really worth washing, even though it's, like I said, it's the first nice day we've had in a while. But anyway, we're almost to the machine shop. Well, guys, we're at the machine shop now. I'm not going to take the camera in because I'm not really sure how he feels about having a camera. But anyway, we're going to unload this stuff, and it probably won't happen today, but I'll leave this with him, and hopefully he can get it done in the next couple days. Well, guys, it is dropped off, and he said it'd probably be Thursday, which I've got to work Thursday. Not a big deal. We'll just pick him up next week. Like I said, it's way easier than trying to scrub those things down by hand. I've done that before, and you'll spend hours and hours, and he'll put it in the machine. It'll come out looking almost brand new. So we'll come pick it up. We're going to run back home, and hopefully the UPS or the FedEx or whoever's bringing that, I'm pretty sure it's UPS, hopefully they've at least showed up, and well, we can get started on that rack. Well, we're back home, and of course they're not here. We're gonna check the mailbox. Maybe they're in there. Woo! They're here. So let's take a look at what we got. Since we got our tie rod ends, and I've had this for a day or so. I got this from the rack doctor, so lifetime warranty. Looks 1,000 times better than what I had before. This is the old one here. What we're going to do is I'm going to use this as a guide to line up where the tie rod ends need to go. Now, it's probably not going to matter because we put new A-arms and the K-member in. It's still going to have to be aligned, but we might as well get it as close as possible. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to take this one out and kind of line up some things, and then we're going to bolt it into place. Now that we got this lined up somewhat close to what the factory spec was set at, or what the last alignment was set at, let's get this thing in the car. We're ready to put this thing in. Hopefully it goes in well, we'll see. But well, the new rack is in place, and you know, I'm not going to try to be super picky, but the paint that they put on these things literally just comes right off, so I'm not super excited about that. I might end up taking some steel wool and at least knocking it off the lines here, and then there's a spot here that it's bent. I mean, look, it's a remanufactured piece, it's not a brand new one, so I didn't expect it to be perfect. But the paint could be just a little bit better. Now, it did fit in there. I shut the camera off because I was having issues. I thought I was going to have to maybe spread these apart a little bit, but it ended up going in without having to do that. Just had to maneuver it back and forth. So we're going to go ahead and tighten these up. BMR says you need to tighten these to 80 foot-pounds, so that's what we're going to do next. Now the next thing we're going to do is, we skipped this in the last video when we were working on the K-member itself, is we need to put the grease certs in the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and put the grease cert in the end of the tie rod and also in the bottom of the lower ball joint here. So get those into place, that way we don't misplace them. They're pretty small, so they're easy to lose, and well, that would suck to put all this together and then not have put grease or the grease certs into place. Now, part of this whole process with the rack doctor is you have to send your old one back. I mean, you don't have to, but there's a core charge on it. So I'm gonna take the tie rod ends off of this just because it won't fit in the box. I'm not gonna reuse them, but I'm gonna go ahead and take them off, like I said, so it won't fit in the box. And the next thing we need to do is just kind of drain it out as much as possible, package it back up, and then ship it back to them. One other thing I forgot to tell you guys, there's a piece of plastic that acts as a dust cap that you need to make sure you pull off before you send the old one back. Well, that is boxed up and ready to ship off, but I'm not sure what we're going to do next. I took that plastic plate off the top, cleaned it up, and that just goes back in place like that. I'm not super impressed, like I said, with the paint job on this, but it's not leaking, hopefully. So they test all these things, and like I said, they have a lifetime warranty on them. So can't complain really a whole lot, unless you want to buy a brand new one, which is about $400 to $500, depending on where you get it. I chose to do this option. This was, I think, $165, and there's a $65 core charge. And then I chose to buy my own tie rod ends. Now, they do have the option to send it with tie rod ends. I didn't do that because they send it with stock ones, and the stock ones do not have a grease cert in them, and so I like moved ball joints. So I'll list both of those. I'll not only list the rack doctor's information, but I will list the part number to the ball joints, or not the ball joints, but the tie rod ends. I say ball joint all the time, I don't know why I do that, but the tie rod ends, I will link a description down below. So the next thing I think I'm going to do is I'm going to start to clean off this wire loom that goes into this bag. So I'm going to start to probably route some of the wiring back into place, and before I do that, I want to make sure that this wire loom's nice and clean. So I think that's going to be my next step here, guys. Well, so before we start this wiring putting it back together. I'm gonna put this back into place. This was just kind of a heat shield from the exhaust for the wiring, and obviously you can see it needs cleaned up. So before we put it back into place, let's go ahead and clean it up real quick. Now that we got that cleaned off, we're just going to snap it back into place. It's just held in by some push pins here. All right, like I said, now I'm going to start cleaning that wire loom. I'm going to cut that bag off, get it out of the way, and just kind of go down with a toothbrush and some simple green and kind of clean that up so it looks a little nicer. It's just, if you're going to go this far, you might as well take these small steps. Well, as you can see, this is going to be a long process cleaning that up. So what I found is, if you can see the difference in this black one here, I've cleaned it all the way up to this plug and here. So what I'm using is actually some Armor All. I'm spraying it onto the toothbrush and using that to clean out the dust that is in all of these crevices. Now, this is probably one of the most tedious parts of this job, but I just don't feel like putting it back together looking all crappy after I spent all this time painting. So it's gonna be a really long process, but we're just gonna kind of start from the end and work our way up to the main harness there. And actually, I'm gonna do all of this before I even start routing the wires back through, because there's no sense in putting it back in and then trying to clean around things. So I've actually switched over to just some Armor All in order to clean some of this dirt off. It seemed like when I was using the simple green, it was kind of caking up and I was having to go over it twice, but you can see a huge difference. Let's see if I can get my light down here. Between what I've done and what I haven't done, there's a huge difference. So what I'm doing is I'm just gonna pour some, I was spraying it on a toothbrush. I'm actually just gonna pour some in this cup, and then I can just dip it in there and keep going. But we're getting close to finished, and this, like I said, is a long, tedious process, and some of you guys may not want to do this, but to me, if you're gonna do all this work to make the engine bay clean, it'd be crazy to put dirty wire loom back in. So we're just gonna keep going over this until it looks basically like new, and then we'll probably go ahead and start routing it back into place. Well, after hours of doing this, I've probably spent, I don't know, maybe 2 hours cleaning this. And like I said, this is really picky, but we're ready to go back in. So we're going to start to thread the wiring harness back in, and you can kind of tell which side goes where. We know that this long one with the vacuum line on it, that's going to go to the passenger side under the fender and back up towards the computer, and then this side obviously with the light on it is going to go to the driver's side. So the shorter side obviously to this side. So we're going to start routing this back through. I'm going to be real careful, trying not to scratch obviously the new paint, but yeah, let's get this thing threaded back through. Well, we now have everything routed back to where it needs to be. Most of the clips are back into place. The only thing I do have to put back on this corner would be that fuse retainer plastic, and I just haven't cleaned that off yet. But I think I am finished cleaning for today. I have absolutely done a ton of cleaning with this wire loom, but I don't know if this thing was in a really dusty environment. I imagine it was, just from the look of it. The prior owner, I never take this thing out in bad weather, so I know it wasn't me. But it needed to be done, and it is done now. So guys, hopefully you're enjoying this content. This is all we are going to be doing today. If you are enjoying it, please go down there, smash that thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed, go down, hit the subscribe button. While you're down there, make sure you ring that bell icon. That way you're notified every time we drop new videos on this or anything else. And well, stay tuned to see if we can get this thing back together.